everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Yes, get that right. It is a Mr. Joining me today is our fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm never calling you Mr. Okay, it's just never ever gonna happen. So you can keep putting that in front of your name as much as you want.
You will respect my authority.
No, I will not. I will not acknowledge you either. So whatever. Hi guys.
Hi. And
Here
the
we are.
shelf master himself, Mr. Odin from OMB Reviews. How you doing, Odin?
I'm doing great. We're back in
More
the school
importantly,
year.
how's your shelf?
Oh, the shelf, it is still fragile, all right? Hollywood is still on strike, so this could collapse again at any time. So just be warned, it is fragile.
Fragile.
Must be Italian.
Like how you class up the stream with your foreign words.
Oh, of course.
And he's here, he's queer, he's our shield against all things intersectional. Mr. Brian from the Popcast, how you doing, buddy?
What's happening, bro? I have no problem calling you Mr. Kadish, only because it pisses off Vader.
Don't do it. Don't.
And last but not least, the lovely and talented Michelle with 2 L's from the Force of Light, here to break up the sausage party that is the usual Salty Saturday.
Yes.
How you doing, Michelle? Thank you for joining us this morning.
Doing good. Nice to be here with all you guys.
So, funny story. As we were getting ready to go live, Michelle comes in and she pulls a Riker maneuver as she sits down in her chair. And we actually had to explain what the Riker maneuver was because she doesn't know anything about Star Trek. But it was very funny because Vader looked at me and he was like, "Did Michelle just do a Riker maneuver?"
She did. She totally Riker maneuvered that chair. It's pretty funny.
It was very funny.
She's like, "What? What did I do? What?
Yeah,
I don't understand."
What is that?
And then she asked, she was like, "Is that from the good Star Trek or the Star Trek everyone hates?"
Well, I just felt it was acceptable if it was from the Star Wars everyone liked. I mean, the Star Trek everyone liked.
Yes. No, it's totally acceptable. And thank you for being here this morning, Michelle. You've been a friend of the podcast for quite some time. And it's been great to see your channel grow as well. Everyone check out her channel. It's in the description along with Odin's and Brian. So if you guys like them on the panel, then you will like their YouTube channels as well. All right, real quick, want to give a shout out to everyone who's been waiting in the chat. Danny's mom, Penny, is here as always. Brett Yeamans is here. Arnie Mueller. Sorry, butchered that one. Anthony Mark. Super sticker champion Gavin Blackburn is here. Who else have we got? Coach O'Dragon, our salty Saturday superstar, the Astronerdboy is here. We've got Mr. Farnsworth in the chat. We got Scotty Dub, our top salty Saturday superstar. Good to see you, Scotty. Mark's 47, really old movies. We got Nadia from the Inside All Day podcast, Mighty Orbots, the Joker's voice, Nut Bunny, and OMB Reviews. Last but not least, how you doing?
Don't forget Coach O'Dragon, one of our members as well.
Already said Coach O'Dragon.
Did you? I didn't
Blue, okay. E. Clay Tomlinson, Fluffy Panda, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. But before we get going, I also want to give a shout out to all of our wonderful superstars here. So we got our top donators, Scotty Dub, Bob Dorsey, and the Astronerdboy. No one has yet dethroned Scotty Dub. He's still top donator with $500 in one super chat. Amazing. Then we got Joker's Voice and Mexican Iron Man as our most consistent donators. Joker's already dropped a super chat this morning, so thank you very much, Joker's Voice. And our top super thankers. Don't forget, you guys can super thank our videos as well if you miss them live. Backyard TARDIS and JT Gunn, both there. But our top contributor, who is also in the chat, Mr. Scotty Dub. Thank you for being here this morning, Mr. Scotty Dub. Really appreciate it. And before we get going, let's just pull up these super chats that we got. So the Joker's Voice, $10. Hail S&P panel and chat. Thanks for turning me on to Warrior, best show on TV. Yes, it is. And thanks for improving the scenery once again. Off to the movies. Hashtag keep talking. Michelle, that was directed towards you. So.
Oh, I thought it was directed toward me. Yeah.
Well, Michelle's the only one on the screen without a beard. So I think that's important to know.
I'm offended.
Yeah, same here. I'm very offended.
All right. And then Scotty Dub for $19.99. Aloha, Mr. Kadish. And thanks so much for ensuring the presence of lovely ladies on the panel 2 weeks in a row. For what it's worth, I'm only excited for 3 films the rest of the year: Exorcist Believer, Dune Part 2, and Napoleon. Yeah, he picked the best 3 coming out, I think. Vader, you lost your mind when you saw that Exorcist trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say about it. It freaks me out. It scares the crap out of me for sure. I think I'm gonna have to go with your wife and Nadia. I think they're gonna end up taking me. I'm gonna be there.
Well, you know what's funny is when we first started podcasting back in 2019, you had never seen the original The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And you said the reason for that was because it was too intimidating for you because you thought you'd be scared out of your mind.
Well, it was forbidden. It was forbidden in my highly religious upbringing.
Yeah, same.
You don't watch those kind of movies. Just don't. And I was a good kid. No, I really wasn't, but there was just something about that movie I didn't ever want to watch, and I watched it and I was highly disappointed when I finally watched it, how dumb it was and how not scary it was. And so I'll probably go watch this one because I'm not really scared of movies anymore. You know what I mean? They don't mentally intimidate me. So whatever, it is what it is.
It's hard to find an actual good scary movie, and I know that Alex himself, because of his religion, he's like, I don't want to bring that evil into my life.
I totally get that. I respect that, and that's fine. I totally understand. I just don't personally try to let movies intimidate me like that one did for so many years. That's just how it is. I'm gonna show it. I'll watch you. I'll give you my money. I'll show you, you stupid movie. But yeah.
It's never as bad as you think it's going to be when it comes to horror movies.
No, but that trailer, it's something. It's scary.
Yeah,
it's freaky, man. And
I will add a caveat to what I just said, unless it's the human centipede. So, real quick, just want to let everyone know that our sub goal for this stream is 5 subs. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please consider doing so. We just need 5 of you guys to do it during the course of this stream, and we will consider that a success. And another thing that we would like to do, if you guys haven't done it already, is give us a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. We're trying to get over 200 5-star reviews in order to apply to become reviewers on Rotten Tomatoes. We've been struggling to hit that goal for quite some time. We may have already hit it, but more always help because sometimes those reviews get taken down. You don't even need to leave a review. Just go over there and hit the 5 stars if you're on an Apple device. Really helps us out.
But
really
if you do leave a review, you might get it read in our special Salty Nerds Read Comments videos one day. Oh, and you have your hand up.
Yeah, I tried doing this literally I've actually tried it a few times now. I don't know, where are the stars? I have Apple devices, and every time I try to look it up on the podcast app, I can't find the stars to rate it.
Yeah, they don't make it easy.
Yeah.
But basically, if you just go to our page,
okay,
or like whatever our profile is, the Salty Nerd Podcast profile, and you scroll down to the reviews, and if you go to the actual like reviews section,
okay,
to leave a review or a rating, it'll give you the option to do the 5 stars.
All right.
So it's a little bit complicated,
which is why they've been asking for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Look, if you go on the page and you scroll all the way down, it'll be right there. Right there. I don't know if you can see that very good,
but Vader, what if you don't have an iPhone?
And you just go to the website.
Go to the website.
Done. 5-starred.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Oh my God! I accidentally gave you guys 1 star. I'm really sorry.
Oh no. That's not
my mom did that. My
Yeah.
mom did that. My mom is on an iPhone. She's like, I don't know how to work this thing, but I'm going to give you a 5-star review. And she's like, I think I might have accidentally hit 1 star. And she did. So thanks.
We give people a lot of homework to do. A lot of when they come to watch one of our things. It's like, do this, do that, do this. It's like, okay. So
also, I noticed that Tom's in the chat. Tom, if you want to hop on, feel free to do so and school us on how not film nerds we are.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I never claimed to be.
We got a members chat from Cocho Dragon. I love that
Nice.
StreamYards does members chats now. Wow, I'm honored that Matt Vader has acknowledged me and enjoyed Tuesday clickbait title best. Suggestion Matt Vader returns to Subway. Hail Salty Crew. If you guys haven't seen our members video of the Matt Vader epic Subway rant when he went into our next door neighbor Subway and asked for some cups and the woman was going to charge him for them, he went off.
$35 for some plastic waxy cups. No, I'm not doing it.
35? Goodness.
Yeah. I only
That
wanted like a
sounds-
dozen cups.
Sounds
But
like a lot of money.
And that was tame compared to like the 20-minute rant he went on.
I did not.
Because he was angry. He came in angry, and we just started filming him, and he just went off on the. We call her Madge, the poor Subway woman. She's like, "You want some cups, man? You're gonna have to pay $35 for them."
They're hard to come
And,
by these days. Supply and demand.
And one of the Legion of Memers actually made a meme out of it, a little meme video, which we play as a trailer sometime. But it's pretty funny.
Nice.
Fluffy Panda for $5. Don't worry, Brian. You're as beautiful as Kurtzman Trek is enjoyable. And as much as Odin loves pineapple pizza, as much as Vader puts hoes before bros.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm glad you're back, Fluffy. You son of a bitch.
Man, Fluffy loves to troll you, man.
I missed you so much.
Well, it's him or Alex, right? So
That's true.
Yeah. Finally, Sean Stackhouse, member for Too Much, member chat. What a great panel. Salty Saturday is definitely must-see TV. Yes, that's what we strive for. Everyone was calling me too bossy, but I like to keep things like a tight ship.
it's not, like
Right, guys?
it's not like they show cartoons on Saturday mornings anymore, so people might as well watch us. So
I know, right? It's going to be crazy. And if the strike goes on much longer, people aren't going to have much of a choice.
Well, there might be cartoons back if the strike goes longer.
yeah,
Yeah.
All you can do is animation.
All right, guys. So let's get back to
there's Tom.
topics at hand. Tom is here. And Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge. How you doing, buddy?
You
Are you there,
guys,
Tom?
I told you I wasn't coming on because I can't be around this kind of negativity all the time. What the hell do you mean Exorcist is dumb? My God, what the fuck?
Hey man, I don't know. It is what it is.
Well, that's
Vader
just
has
your opinion, man.
Vader
I thought it
has
was a little cheesy,
legendarily
too.
bad takes on movies, Tom.
And
I
you
have to deal with it
like
every
the
week.
worst movies ever created. Okay, so don't start.
In what world? My favorite movie is Jaws. How is that one of the worst movies ever
I know,
created?
that was for Matt. That wasn't for you. That was for Matt.
That was to
thought
Mr.
maybe,
Kadish.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Kadish.
so-
Well, yeah,
Kadish.
I've listened to you guys trash on Superman, Rambo. It's like what?
I never didn't trash on Rambo, and Superman.
Somebody did.
It's getting old. Jude hated Rambo. She hated it, but the rest of us loved it.
Rambo's great.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. Michelle, what do you
Agreed.
think of Rambo?
I've actually I can't say I've never seen it. I don't remember it if I've seen it. I remember it being on TV, but I don't recall anything from it. So I basically have not seen it.
Every
In
time
fact, I don't think I ever sat down and watched it all. Again, I just kind of remember him in a jungle, maybe. Is that
You're
accurate?
thinking of like 2 or 3 then, probably, or 4.
Okay, yeah, then I've never
2.
seen Rambo.
Is there a jungle?
I'm like,
2,
is there a
3,
jungle?
and
I'm not
or
sure.
4.
well,
Or it was
The-
Tropic Thunder. I mean, it could be a lot of things if it's
Yeah.
just a jungle.
Probably
you
Tropic
know?
Thunder. Yeah.
the Pacific Northwest forests that he was in the first movie are technically rainforest. So you could call that a
Okay.
jungle. And he was definitely in a jungle in the second movie.
It
So
was shot in
yeah.
like Washington, wasn't it?
yeah,
First
yeah.
one? Yeah.
I
Or
have
Canada
seen
or something like
though.
that.
I have seen though. Our next first time watching reaction is Hot Shots 2, which
my
apparently
God.
is a spoof of.
You have to see.
Rambo.
How can you watch Hot Shots
Yeah.
before you've seen Rambo?
Because it was still so funny. Like you didn't even need to see it to find it hysterical.
Well, I feel like if Michelle had actually like watched the level of movies we have, she wouldn't have a channel. It's all like first time watching a movie everyone has seen.
I'm very thankful that apparently I was a very repetitive watcher as a kid.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny, Michelle, because your viewing habits aren't too dissimilar to Jude's, except she loves horror movies, so we got that going. But yeah, every time we're like, Jude, have you seen this movie? And she's like, I don't remember.
Nope. I was too busy watching Night of the Comet for the 47th time. It's like,
See?
okay.
See, she gets it because a lot of these movies too, guys are like, "How have you never seen it?" And it's like, well, we were like 3 and 4 year olds at the time.
I can
Little
accept it from
girls.
you guys, Michelle.
You're just old,
man.
man.
I just want to reach across the computer and smack sometimes. It's just like after he says shit like, well, I just watched Night of the Comet again after 46. And then he has the audacity to say that The Exorcist was dumb.
Also, we should say William Friedkin,
Sorry.
R.I.P.
Yeah,
the recently passed away.
The week that William Friedkin died, you had to.
Listen, the whole Exorcist thing. I mean, honestly, you guys, I'm not going to get into a big long tirade about my upbringing, but it was a forbidden movie.
Yeah, same.
It was one of those movies that I was literally almost. I feel like
You
I
guys
was kind of
know why it was
brainwashed.
forbidden.
I was kind of
So you guys would
brainwashed.
actually watch it. That's why.
Yeah,
Because-
but it was just one of those things that I was mentally made to where it would like give me. I had a lack of an ability to watch this movie, and it took me until 2 years ago to finally just say, you know what, screw that, I'm watching it, and I did, and I watched it, and it wasn't bad. It just wasn't anywhere nearly as scary as I was ever brought up to believe, and I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was kind of silly, and I think it was mostly because of the just the weird 1970s special effects and the head spinning and stuff. It looks silly. Okay,
That's
and
not
I
the
think
part
that-
that's supposed to be scary, though.
yeah, but it wasn't. It was just weird, and the religious stuff didn't scare me either because it just didn't. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I didn't think it was that great.
It terrified me. I can say that much.
Yeah,
I do want to say that since we're on the topic of exorcisms, the Pope's Exorcist, Jude and I watched that the other night. Very good movie, highly recommend it. But Vader, we're never going to review the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because Tom will kill you.
No,
I
don't
will.
worry.
He will straight up murder you. So we're going to
In
avoid
your
that.
sleep.
I would never do that.
No, the thing about The Exorcist is I swear that they told you that on purpose so you'd actually watch it. I think
No.
because that movie did for churches what Jaws did for beaches, only the opposite. Like more people went to church after The Exorcist came out.
Oh,
It was the church's Top Gun, basically.
Yes. Yes. But just like the point is like everybody does that though every time. It's like, oh, the special effects are hokey and it's not scary. And it's like,
Yeah.
look, unless you're a parent, it's hard to understand why that movie's scary. The scary part isn't when she's spinning her head around and spitting pea soup. The scary part is when she is sitting there going through all those tests and her mother has no fucking clue what is wrong with her daughter. And she's sitting there in front of a table full of all these specialists and each one of them are just going, we don't know. You know, like that's the scariest part of that movie because as a parent, having a doctor or somebody tell you, we don't know what's wrong with your child is one of the most terrifying things you can ever think of because you have no idea what to expect.
I would add
nobody
one
can
thing.
give you any answers.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
that. I raised a couple kids, man. I know how that feeling.
I would
is.
add one thing to that, which is I think the score is also terrifying. It's a
Yeah,
brilliant
for
score.
sure.
Well, Friedkin just knows how to do all that stuff together, and I get it. It's the special effects definitely haven't aged, but that's like everybody's common thing.
Can I? All I can say is it didn't live up to my expectations. That's all I'm gonna say, and I'll leave it at that.
Did you see the theatrical cut or that extended cut?
I saw whatever was on Amazon Prime or
Probably
whatever
the
that
extended cut.
Was it the one where she was crawling on the?
Is she crawled down the stairs backwards in it?
I honestly don't remember.
If you don't remember, maybe you did see the theatrical cut.
So guys, fun fact: William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, actually did a documentary with the real life Pope's exorcist guy, the Pope's right hand man. Definitely want to check that out because it seems interesting, especially now that Friedkin's passed away, unfortunately. But enough talking about demonic possession. Let's get to feminist possession with Rapinoe Ridiculed.
Oh, we're gonna start with that. Okay.
Rapinoe.
What the hell is that?
Rapinoe. Yeah, so basically, for those of you who don't know, women's U.S. soccer team got absolutely humiliated recently, and Megan Rapinoe, who is a very outspoken, kind of like feminist on the team, basically missed the easiest kick in the world to lead to their loss and elimination. And it's kind of an interesting situation where, like, basically the team that the country that the team represents unanimously has been rooting against them. And Rapinoe goes out, like, she's retired. She goes out on this huge blunder. And even like everyone's ridiculing her over this. And in some way it's kind of like a just desserts, because she's been so anti-US and she's been very forward with like the liberal policies. Michelle, since you're the only woman on this panel, what's your take on this?
Well, for starters, I was a person who always thought soccer was very boring. Like any sport where people are like excited that they scored one goal, to me is not my cup of tea personally. But I mean, it is kind of, you had to laugh, especially some of the memes where she kicked it and it knocks down Joe Biden. I mean, there are just a lot of good memes with this one. And I mean, I think it's sad. It's actually sad that they have so turned off so much of the country that we all like either didn't care or like genuinely cheered that they lost. It's just kind of a sad state of affairs, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Odin. So the U.S. women's team has been notoriously unpatriotic, and at least criticized for being unpatriotic during their representation of the U.S. as they go about, these tournaments. Like they don't stand for the national anthem or any of these things. Do you think that this is, just desserts for them?
Oh, it absolutely is, and, a lot of people are bringing up different things like, well, this is just a sign that the world is finally catching up to us in, quality players, etc. And I think that there's some truth to it, but ultimately, what did the loss come from? It came from missed penalty shots and missed opportunities. And so seeing especially Megan Rapinoe have one of the, I believe actually, because I was watching it, she was the first to miss the penalty shot. And then after her, someone else missed. So she wasn't the only one responsible, but she was definitely one of the reasons as to why they got sent home. But after all the years, especially that they've been out in the media, in the news, really just lying about everything as far as their contract with the football league, the US Women's Soccer League and everything. I'm actually someone that does appreciate soccer, but I'm very specific. I only like World Cup soccer. I like when countries are playing countries, and that goes for almost any sport in general. Right, I typically don't watch a lot of hockey, but when it's countries versus countries, I think that's really cool. I think that's a lot of fun. And so for them to be knocked out in the earliest stage that they've ever been kicked out by quite a bit. I mean, we're talking about a team that ever since the inception of the game has basically gone on to at least like the semifinals, like at the very worst quarterfinals every single time that they've gone. Is just, again, very appropriate because it also shows their focus has not been on the field. It has not been on their game. It has been on politics, on pushing for more pay, not equal pay, more pay. I think that's the only accurate way of explaining it, because the whole equal stuff just does not actually make sense when you break those things down. But they've been fighting for more and more money, and for this to happen to this team and to this person in Megan Rapinoe, it's very well deserved. And the other thing too is, I think about in the history of American sports and the history of any time a team has represented America, I don't think there's ever been another team, correct me if I'm wrong, where people have actually actively rooted against them. Like, as far as like wanting them to actually lose. I can't think of another American team where that has actually been the case, unless there's like a basketball team in the recent era at the Olympics or something. But I mean, again, that to me speaks volumes as far as where this team is.
Yeah, Tom. So the U.S. women's soccer team apparently has repeatedly advanced claims that police hunt unarmed black men, LGBT people are unsafe in the United States, women don't receive equal pay because of discrimination against their gender. Pretty much name every left-wing talking point. This team has been out there promoting it. Do you think that sports players should just stick to sports instead of politics?
I mean, look, everybody has a right to speak their mind. That's what's great about America. You have the freedom of speech, but you also have the freedom. People have the freedom to tell you to shut the fuck up and or not listen to you or pay attention to you anymore. And honestly, I had never heard about this person before this last week. This is the first time I've heard anything about them, and I've heard more than enough about them in the last week to know that I don't care. This is another reason why women's sports just generally don't take off, because there's too much griping, pissing, and moaning and other stuff involved. Like you just said, I've never once in my life heard anything like this to where they're like, F America, and all this kind of stuff. Like, okay, then go play in Canada or something, because,
Yeah, why are you here?
I've never understood this. In all my years, my 43 years of living, I've never seen so much hatred towards America in our whole life. Even when we've had enemies on the other side, like, I don't even remember, like, we've even had this thing where people were like, yeah, don't talk bad about them. Like, well, they're our enemies. Well, that's not the point. The point is, we don't have to want to fight them. We would like to be friends with them when this is all said and done. It's like those kind of mentalities have gone out the window. It's always an us versus them mentality. And that's what this woke culture has fostered so much. And again, I'm not surprised. It's almost like schadenfreude for a lot of people when you see somebody do something like that, especially if they've been so, been such a jerk to you or, your country or just in general. And it's like, I'm especially sick of seeing it out of like sport, athletes, actors, stuff like that. It's like you folks, and this goes along with the strike business too. It's like you folks get to do what kids on the playground dream of doing when they grow up. You literally get paid to either play sports or play pretend, right? Like, can't you just take, that in stride and go like, look, I'm lucky to have that much. Sure, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed when it comes to the writing and the acting in Hollywood. We all know that. We could use a lot of new writers and actors right now. Trust me. But they don't see that. So, but at the end of the day, I think it's funny. What do you, I don't care. I thought it was the hair's fault.
The blue hair,
yeah. To go on Tom's point, I've said this before, and I don't really care about soccer, but a good example is I have been a diehard Los Angeles Lakers fan since I was like 7 years old. I paid for the NBA ticket to get every game. I followed everything. And after 2020, and they even won that, I didn't even watch the playoffs, and I haven't really gone back and watched since, because there comes a point you get tired as the audience of, in the case of the NBA, you've got these men that are built like Greek gods, people like LeBron James. Good gosh. And then you've got them out there fussing constantly about how oppressed they are. And there came a point where it just killed it for me. Like, it was like, shut up. Like, I just got tired of hearing these people making millions of dollars playing a sport, as Tom pointed out, and all they want to do is sit there and fuss. It's just, I think people are over it.
That's why I like hockey.
Yeah. Well, Michelle,
go ahead.
If you don't like women's sports, you're a misogynist.
I've never really been big. Let's just be real. Look at the WNBA. I mean, a lot of people I played basketball in college. People still do watch girls basketball. In fact, I think their ratings were higher than in a long time last year for women, for college girls basketball. But when you get to the WNBA, let me just be real blunt. You need men to watch this as well. And men nor women like myself want to watch a full league of just straight up butch lesbians. It's just not appealing. Yeah. It is what it is.
The best way of saying it.
Just to touch on that, here in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Aces, our WNBA team, they're the world champions. They won the world championship last year in their league, and they're destroying their league this year. But just as hardly anybody in this town, their hometown, we could care less about the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA. And this is the pinnacle. This is the top of the pyramid in that world right now.
You guys remember the XFL?
There's a couple billboards around and stuff, but nobody cares outside their little world.
The XFL was prime time women's football.
Vader, let me throw this to you real quick. Kind of going off of Michelle's point about like men's sports versus women's sports.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at like the streaming landscape, right? Like, if you watch a male streamer playing video games, the guy's got to be like at the top of his game in order to be entertaining, because you want to see the best. When it comes to women, they just got to look good.
You're putting me in an awkward spot here, bro, because it's the opposite out there. if you're hot and you're willing to show a little skin and some cleavage, and if you're smart enough to use a spoon, you can make a fortune in the stream.
You mean by eating cereal and stuff?
Whatever. Okay. Yeah, and the guy's got to go next level. You got to be like Dr. Disrespect or Tim Tatman or somebody like that,
or become a woman,
or to make it out there.
Or identify as a deer.
Right. There's too many amaranths out there, not enough Nick Merckx. That's all I'm going to say. It's in this world, it's very difficult for a fat, white, middle-aged, bald guy like me to break into anything. So
ain't that the truth?
And there's a reason Tom keeps
bullshit. We can break into a sandwich like that.
There's a reason Tom keeps his camera off 99% of the time, and I think you should keep it on more, man. But it's a really nice background.
But you're beautiful.
But yeah, you're right. You're
beautiful.
And as far as
beautiful.
the sports thing goes, as far as the sports things go, I'm going to shut up because we're nerds talking about sports and nobody cares. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why we're talking about this.
I like sports.
I've never seen a single game of soccer.
I like the sports ball when the dude did the thing in the hoop.
You know what my sports are? Every year I watch the International, which is a giant gaming tournament. That's that's my only sports every year. A week of the International.
I just want to say though, I did think it was funny that in the penalty kick thing or whatever she was doing, it's a 50-50 coin flip. You hit the ball, the goalie is going to go one way or the other, and you should get your goal 50% of the time, right? She couldn't even hit the net. It went over the net. And then she just did her stupid little smirk thing about it, and she walked off into the sunset. And I couldn't have been happier for her. I hope we never have to hear from her again. But knowing this world and this country we live in and the environment, she's probably going to go be host to she's going to be the next Oprah Winfrey.
She's going to run for office
and run for office in
Ohio or something.
I will say this after watching the World Cup, because I've been watching the Women's World Cup because I do enjoy sports in general. But when it comes to her career, I don't think she has a future on Fox Sports because they have people who are not necessarily fully based, but they'd had one host who was a former soccer player who actually played with a lot of these players who was calling them out for their terrible play. And I was like, hey, kudos to you. But I think she will absolutely, unless ESPN goes through any major changes, I think for sure she'll get a show on ESPN so that she can just spout her nonsense 24/7.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw this
sense.
to Brian. Brian, Megan Rapinoe kind of became the face of third wave feminism in the sports world. But the memes for her embarrassment have been all over the internet. What's your take on her?
I don't know anything about soccer, but I do know about her because she won't shut up. And I got to say, it felt really good seeing the memes of her failing after all the garbage that she spews and that she promotes. I think that her promotion of this like anti-American, just lies, totally unfactual points, completely dividing people, because there are people that look up to her. I'm not sure who, but I'm sure there are. I think that this was a big fat lob of karma coming down on her, and I hope that I hope to never see her again.
All right, guys. Well, before we move on to our next topic, let's hit up some members chats. Unlimited Power asks, what does a tattoo feel like? I'm 30 years old and haven't lost my tattoo virginity.
It hurts. I have three tattoos and they all hurt, but it was nice to get.
I haven't lost
three and I haven't got mine. So.
I don't have any tattoos.
No one here has tattoos but me.
Nope.
What?
Unless
so
Tom
I was in the
does.
military. When you're in the military, tattoos is like sort of a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right. Like your first break out of basic, pretty much all the privates hit the local tattoo shop. And I got the American thing. I got my unit's crest on my back. And when I got back from basic, I'm from AIT, I ended up getting some typical 90s Asian characters on my arm that stands for loyalty. Right before I got married, and then my wife's name. So when you're in the military, it's sort of a rite of passage to get tattoos. And I didn't get anything like on my face or anything like I can hide all my tattoos. If you get a tattoo on Unlimited Power, just do me a favor, dude. Or not, dude. I'm not sure. But get a tattoo, whatever your gender is, get a tattoo that you can hide. Okay?
Yeah.
feel free to get one you can show off with a tank top or at the beach, whatever. But yeah, exactly. Thank you, Vader. Don't get a tattoo anywhere that you can't cover up naturally. Like I can't stand that. A buddy of mine got a tattoo like right here. He got a tattoo here on his neckline, and I'm like, dude. So not only are you a fat guy, but now it looks like you have a perpetually fat, dirty neck.
I'm sorry. How did we get to tattoos? I didn't even leave.
It was a chat.
I've been listening the whole time.
Have you?
If you get a tattoo on Unlimited Power, just get one you can hide, my bro.
All I know is how I think the bigger story this week is we've had 2 nominees for Worst Lesbian of the Year come out in 1 week. Nobody's pointing that out.
Oh yeah, the cop in the UK. But you mentioned the neck tattoo. I don't know if anyone watches wrestling, but this wrestler Cody Rhodes, even a guy who's like ripped like he is, it still looks terrible. You're like, what in the world are you doing?
It's terrible. My buddy who has a neck tattoo, he has like literally "Made in America" right here because he was in the military too. And I'm like, dude, no one can read that. You have to get real close. And you barely have a neckline as it is because you're like 350 pounds. It looks real bad. It just looks like you have a dirty neck. You need to grow a beard so you can hide that tattoo, bro.
Yeah,
I speak very factual with the guy. He doesn't like all the time.
Yeah, Unlimited Power. You might be better off going to a Melanie Mack's stream because I believe she has. Gavin Blackburn for 5 months. I reviewed you on Apple. Take your 5 stars. Thank you. Gavin Blackburn. All right, really appreciate that. Okay, so. This next members chat is from Fluffy Panda, and it's based off of a really funny Babylon Bee tweet where it says Megan Rapinoe is now teaching stormtroopers how to shoot.
Yeah, perfect.
And if you saw the Babylon Bee tweet, they have like a Photoshop of like her with like a bunch of like stormtroopers, and she's got like one of their rifles and stuff.
Right. Oh my god,
it's great.
No, I have not seen that.
It's
That's
really
awesome.
funny.
Man, what the Onion used to be, Babylon Bee has just completely taken over.
Yeah, I feel like they stole all the Onion's good writers.
Yeah.
It just left the activists over there.
The Onion got really bad because all that's left over there is a bunch of left-wing people, and we know left can't meme, so.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of The Onion.
Really?
Babylon Bee has become the most accurate paper out there right now, if you think about it.
Michelle, I feel like you're on the same level as Alex. Because like we talk about stuff and he's just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Onion was really popular, like before YouTube.
Well, like when I was in college, The Onion was the Babylon Bee.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
A satirical paper of sorts.
It was the first satirical news source.
They were kind of like our generation's National Lampoon of sorts, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
They kind of led into the Daily Show on Comedy Central. Like they were the precursor to that. Fluffy Panda for $2. Vader numb to horror because he's around Brian a lot. Brian does numb us to a lot of things. This is true.
I'm actually pretty much on the same page with Vader when it comes to Exorcist. I wasn't able to watch it when I was a kid because I'm very religious, and when I did watch it as an adult, I was like, eh.
That's so funny because like there's 3 of us on here who have a similar experience of not watching it when we were younger. And, for me, it wasn't like we weren't allowed to. It was just every time I saw anything about it, it just looked so creepy because of my religious background. And then when I finally did watch it for my channel, I was like, this is terrifying.
Yeah, I thought you know what I thought was good? The one with the demonic kid, Omen, I think it's called.
Oh.
Damon.
Yeah.
Whatever that movie that is.
I think it's
that
The Omen.
freaked me out.
I think
it's The Omen.
Yeah.
That freaked me out. I watched that like a few years
I'll
ago.
have to give that one a watch.
Yeah, I don't
Michelle,
think. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say you wanted to say something.
Yes, I was going to say, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anyone here that I've not seen The Exorcist.
Not surprised.
No, I think Natalie has, though, but I've not seen it. To me, you guys let me know, is it more scary or is it more stuff that is disturbing? Because I feel
More
like
psychological horror.
Scary and disturbing.
There are both, though, in there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on,
Everyone's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
You also got to remember that at the time The Exorcist came out, it was kind of a groundbreaking horror movie because nothing like that had really been seen on screen.
It was the first movie to really take that kind of stuff seriously. Like at that point, you got to we had the most horror movies at that time were things like Night of the Living Dead, and this was even before Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's kind of like
or like super B drive-in horror movies.
Yeah,
really, really campy,
And Michelle, since I know that we both watched Nefarious That film completely 100% psychological thriller with no real horror stuff in it. Whereas this one, there are definitely a lot of key moments in there where you're like, oh boy. So depending on your personality, like depending on just your disposition to that kind of stuff, for me, it freaked me out. For others, obviously for others here, that didn't freak them out. But
there's a scene with a crucifix in The Exorcist, which shall not be reiterated here on stream. Oddly enough, did anyone here watch the Fox like TV show reboot with Gina Davis?
No.
It was actually pretty good.
I have taste.
I thought it was actually pretty good. Fluffy Panda for $5.
Yes.
Bill Burr nailed women's sports problem. Great video. They'd rather watch gals tear each other down, reality TV, than support WNBA or
so
soccer.
true.
Or that is a great clip.
It is.
Scantily clad in a mud wrestling ring sounds very entertaining as well.
Gosh.
Well, I mean, again, the college girls basketball saw an increase this year, but I think in college girls there's still enough young women in it that there's femininity in it.
Yeah.
By the time it goes to the WNBA, it's lost it all. Like any pretty girl's not there anymore. They're all lesbians. It is what it is.
Should be the they them NBA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's also entitlement too, because if you look at what the battles that the WNBA have been trying to have, it's been trying to get more pay, more money, and it's like your league can't even support itself. Like literally, if the NBA was not paying for your league, it would not exist. Like that's just how little it is, and so there's such an entitlement for them because of that. Who would have thought? You provide and basically, allow someone to exist in a type of league like this, subsidize them, and what happens? They get complacent, and then they think they actually deserve more than what they're getting. And so I think that's probably why you see in college it's actually probably more entertaining because they're trying and they're actually competitive.
I think one last thing to touch on this Megan Rapinoe thing is I believe after they won their first game at the World Cup this year, or they tied, an exciting 1-1 tie or some nonsense like that. They asked Megan how she felt about the win or whatever, and this isn't a quote, but she said something along the lines about how it was great to be getting the same pay as the guys for this tournament or something like that. So she couldn't even talk about the game. She just had to say it's really nice to get paid, and it's just like, okay, done. You say get out of here, So
well, my joke aside, I think Michelle made the bigger point here. Why women's basketball in college is probably still popular compared to adult basketball is because they still look like women, right? Like that's the thing. If men are going to watch women's sports, they want to see women look like women. They don't want to see women who look like men. Like that is one of the most unattractive things to most straight guys. Like it's
Foxy boxing, the lingerie bowl, like all that.
Yeah. And
it's real
women's
quick.
Softball,
Fluffy Panda is talking about the Bill Burr thing, and it was really hilarious because he just to hijack this real quick. He does talk about that same player we were talking about going on ESPN and complaining about not making enough money, complaining about not making as much money as men make. And the funniest part about that was all the men sitting around, faking like they don't know the answer to her question.
Yeah.
Because the answer is you don't have enough viewers. It's not because the way you look or he plays. You don't have the support. The support is what determines how much money you're making. And these other professional sports, they get a ridiculous amount of support, and so they can have insane contracts because they know they're going to bring viewers and merchandise and all that. Who's buying merch for the women's soccer team? I don't know.
Yeah. Real quick, we got a super sticker for £1.49 from Gavin Blackburn. Thank you, Gavin.
Nice.
And another one of our salty superstars chimes in for $40. Bob Dorsey. Would you rather fight one Renee Zegler or 100 John Campia size Renee Zeglers?
Campia,
100% Campia.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
100 of them though?
Yeah, whatever.
Hot.
That gives me 100 opportunities to smack that face.
Right. I mean, it's 100 chances to kick that dude in the face. That sounds great. So, he has such a punchable face, though, right? Oh my god,
he really does. That's
Can I have R&B as my tag team partner in that?
Oh my god! Every time Campia goes off on some why does everyone have a problem with the term woke? Yeah, I am a social justice warrior. What's the problem with that? Like, oh my god, he's such a boomer, man.
You'd think he'd figure it out after a while. That's the funniest part.
Yeah.
Just I mean, and I've heard stories about him, and I've talked to enough people that know him that it's like he's not a complete moron, but yet he is at the same time. It is the most strangest thing in the world, and it just goes to show you how woke culture can make very intelligent people complete freaking morons at the end of the day. It's just hilarious.
Well, he knows his audience, so more power to him.
Well,
Whatever.
Does he? Was he attacked?
Does he though? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think, at this point,
He still gets the views, man. Can't.
not really, because here's
Not
the
as
thing.
much.
Midnight's Edge After Dark streams about the same time he does. We get almost as many live viewers as he does, but if you look at the replays, our replays are better than his, and we have like a third, if not less than that, on our subscribers on our channel.
He abandoned YouTube, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like he just posts highlights now on YouTube.
I think I don't know if he still did. He quit doing live show.
So
Wow.
basically, he wanted to focus more on the audio end of things, and then he was like, nobody watches our live stream, but they watch a lot of our clips. So we're just going to put up clips instead of having to do a fully produced live stream.
He still doesn't get it, does he?
Because I think at one point the stream was behind a paywall. Like I think he was like, "Oh, you have to be a member," and then like people as members who had access started to like criticize what he was saying, and then he like apparently went off on them, and it's like, dude,
Oh.
you just
So he
Well,
thinks
guys-
he's Steven Crowder now.
Yeah, guys. Speaking of not getting it, let's talk about the Star Trek: Strange New
Oh,
Worlds.
not
Why am I here
Oh,
today?
gosh.
Jesus.
I don't know.
Hold on. Since literally half the panel has not seen this, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But Brian, since you and Shane,
I think they
run one
made
of
sure they could ensure that nobody will watch this crap after doing a musical now. I mean,
yeah. But Brian, since you and Shane run one of the biggest Star Trek channels on YouTube, what was your guys' thoughts on this one part finale? Like they tried to pull a best of both worlds.
Again.
Type hit cliffhanger, but like
Right.
it kind of fell flat. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, the wild thing about that is their last finale was so, even by apologists, was hated. So then this finale was such a cheap cop-out. Not only did they didn't have the budget, I guess, to actually create a futuristic town. So they said, this colony is based on late 20th century, and it's basically Orange County circa 1995.
Yeah.
It's the silliest thing. Like it's clearly a budgetary thing there. Then the Gorn come out. The only good thing about that is finally we saw the adult Gorn, and they actually look like acceptable. And then you get to the very end, and you're already pissed off. This entire thing makes no sense. There's so many flaws and so many plot holes that you're already reeling from the displeasure of having to watch this garbage. And then finally, when we're about to see something of value, and they go, Captain, what do we do? He doesn't even answer, and it just says to be continued.
Because
Jesus.
Because he can't make a decision. Because
He
he,
can't
doesn't
make
know
a
what to do.
Yeah, he's
All
like
of a
this.
sudden,
He's
he
like
forgot how to be a captain.
he has like
All of a sudden.
post-traumatic stress disorder or something. He's like looking around. He's like, I don't know. And they're like, Captain, what do we do? He's like, to be continued. And you're like, what the fuck? It was so disappointing. Such a cheap cop out for a finale. I mean, just an episode of Star Trek in general, it didn't work. There's so many problems. I'm not going to get into all of them. But my biggest gripe was not the fact that they just used like 1998 Orange County as their setting, but how about the fact that Nurse Chapel was the only survivor of that ship? That made no sense whatsoever. Everyone else died, and so you have to assume that she wasn't the only survivor, which means that they basically detonated that ship in the atmosphere without even checking who else was there.
Mm-hmm.
Spock's whole mission, his like suicidal mission to go up there and like blow it up because he's like simping for Chapel so hard. He thinks.
How many times are they going to rip off that J.J. Abrams scene where they take their spacesuits and go through a debris field?
Yeah, it's nonstop. Why does Strange New Worlds? They have so many debris fields. It's like every
ridiculous.
episode, the ship is flying through a debris field. It's crazy.
Flying through something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, Brian, a big plot point in this episode was they take that destroyed Federation ship and crash it into the planet in order to destroy that null field generator. But something that size hitting that planet from orbit, wouldn't that have like killed everything within like
devastating.
It would have put it into the Dark Ages, right?
And then they scan. They're like,
done that, but the immediate area would have been cratered for sure.
I mean, it would have been pretty bad, right? The atmosphere would have been. It would have been devastating.
Well,
it's funny. It's funny because Pike and his crew were like in that shuttle, which was like a mile away from that thing, and Scotty's like brace yourselves, and it's like no, they would have been destroyed.
Yeah, 100%
into the planet.
Yeah, I'm so tired of Spock being so torn up about Chapel nonstop. He's lost all of his power as a character. When they get off the teleporter the teleporter pad or whatever, and he goes, we need to talk. And she's like, not now, Spock. I'm like, what the fuck? First off, why is he the one that needs to talk about his feelings right now? And she's the one telling him that they have better things to do right now? It's like such an ass backwards. Makes no sense, man.
All right, Vader, what's your take on the finale of Strange?
By the way, Vader just texted me 3 letters after he watched it. He was just oof. And I was like, I know.
That was our entire
conversation.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, I went, I wonder if Brian's still awake. I just went, ugh.
Of course I would.
And he goes, I know.
Dude, transpose that against our Picard season 3 discussions where we had like multi-page texts about one episode. This one episode is oof.
Or you can transpose it against our season 1 of Strange New Worlds conversations. This show, it makes it really hard for me to defend season 1 when season 2 was so bad, because I genuinely enjoyed parts of season 1, a lot of it. And this season 2 was like they just fell off the planet. It was wild. It's like they got these writers that come in there, and it's like none of them had ever seen a single episode of Star Trek.
I haven't been paying attention much. Did Kiva Goldsman kind of?
Yeah, he's like the showrunner or something.
He's still the showrunner? Okay.
Yeah.
This was his baby this season.
But
it was initially his baby to begin with. That's what I was asking for. Yeah.
Yeah. But even the whole premise of the Gorn is the big bad here. I had to go back this morning.
About that, yeah.
The Gorn being the big bad, kind of the concurrent thing through the first 2 seasons here. It makes no sense to me, because I actually went back to the Arena episode this morning.
I was going to say, tell us you haven't seen Arena before.
And I had to find,
a bad guy, basically.
I went back to that scene where they're chasing the Gorn ship before they get beamed down to the planet. And Kirk's all, hey, who are these people? Blah, blah, blah. And Spock literally says there are rumors of something out here in this sector of space, but nobody knows what it is. Nothing's ever even been recorded. They have no idea who the Gorn are or what they are or where they're at in this sector of space. And this show is set 10 years or something prior to that episode. So to me, it just makes no sense that the Gorn are out here in space attacking Federation outposts and colonies and ships, and it's the big bad of this series, when they shouldn't even have come across them or known what they are yet. But yet characters like Lon are in there. Her entire story arc is based on being a prior Gorn prisoner. They introduced Scotty in this episode.
Yeah.
And Scotty's freaking origin of this show now is because he escaped a freaking Gorn attack.
Right.
He's the lone survivor of a Gorn attack of the outpost that he was on.
Felt like a
bullshit,
and it feels like a cowardly move
how
too.
the Force works.
It was so aggravating.
The only person to escape out of all of his crew.
And then he's also Carol Kane's student.
Oh yeah. He's a best student with the worst marks. Shut up, Carol. God, you're the worst.
Oh, they got to tear Scotty down too.
Yeah. Yep, they teared Scotty down too.
Scotty,
no.
Scotty.
No.
I know. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
No,
that's exactly how I felt.
Time out. No,
Scotty's my favorite character of all
Scotty
time.
is the one guy who always has Kirk's back and will not fuck up. That is just the one thing.
He's a miracle worker. Always comes through.
Exactly.
And he did perform a miracle on this one too, but it's just the whole thing of how they're introducing these characters. It's just preposterous. And the only thing I can do to make myself feel any better about it is that Brian stuck that whole it's an alternate timeline thing in my head because it is now. It
is.
absolutely has to be because these are not our characters. These are not our ships. These are not our
continuity.
It's
continuity is completely
so
different.
bizarre.
Yeah, there was no. By the way, there was no Gorn War. There was no Gorn War. This never happened. This never happened in the original timeline. It never. Period. It never happened. And there's so many things that didn't happen. We're actually going to create an entire video where we break down every single change that Strange New Worlds and Discovery has introduced since that first episode. And there are so many that if you actually go back and look at their time shenanigans in episode 3, it's a proven fact canonically that this is an altered timeline.
Well, we said that already way back when.
Yeah.
But they proved it now.
Admitted it. They admitted it not too long ago here. Right. After all these years, even though because we said the 25% different is what we said, 6-7 years ago now? That was what we'd reported. They finally friggin' admitted it. And now that they've admitted it, I think I know why, even though I've been watching the show, is exactly why you guys have been saying. Because they have deviated so far from what the original thing is that, yes, that's why there's always been 3 different timelines. There's the original timeline, there's the Kelvin timeline, and there's what they refer to as the Prime timeline. And that's what you guys are watching right now. That's what we've been trying to tell y'all for years. Well, this is not the same timeline of either of those, actually.
About to piss you off, Connors, but I'll tell you what.
I'm sure it will.
Right? Akiva Goldsman, though, he came out and he spoke to Deadline or Variety or whatever it was. I don't know, some magazine. And he said, this is not, the timeline actually hasn't been changed. This is the same timeline. We're just making changes to bring it up to modern, our modern
That's the same
aesthetic.
Crap they said before.
And so I keep getting in these conversations where people are like, oh, they said it wasn't changed. No, fucker, listen to me. It doesn't matter whatever current insert showrunner here says to a magazine on the internet. Whatever happens on screen, that's the only thing that matters, period, the end. So what you can say whatever you want, Akiva and Alex and whoever else, doesn't matter. What we saw on screen puts it clearly into an altered timeline, and they even say in the show, in episode 3, when the bridge explodes in Canada, right? That this is the same in my timeline, which means that not only is the Kirk with you in a different timeline on, but you're also operating in a different timeline because that never happened in the original timeline.
The joy of multiverses.
Jesus.
So guys, I gave up on Strange New World season 2 after 2 episodes.
Thank God.
But in preparation for today's show, I went and watched the finale, and I kind of liked it.
Of course you did.
Oh, there it is.
Because you're a weirdo.
I've given up so much on Star Trek nowadays that I kind of don't care what happens anymore.
Of course, Matt liked it. Of course.
And I've always liked the Gorn episodes. I don't know why.
Are you a Gorn simp?
I am a Gorn simp, yes. I like what they're doing with the Gorn to make them kind of scarier.
Well, that doesn't make sense though, Matt.
No, I fully admit everything that Brian and Vader just said is correct. But when I turn my brain off and watch the show, like the average Star Trek fan tends to do I should say Kurtzman Star Trek fan tends to do.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's certain things you're allowed to turn your brain off when you go watch a tentpole movie in the movie theater. You're not allowed to turn your freaking brain off when you're watching a Star Trek show. They're supposed to stay in order and have a certain canon that they stick to. This is nonsense.
That's the exact opposite argument you just made when I was criticizing Picard season 3.
I don't think it is because they stick with their.
Do I need to make another video?
No, you don't need to make another video.
Don't make another video that we then have to watch next week and then
right live on stream as you're sitting there just smiling.
I don't even make the girls watch our videos. Jesus,
he sits there and he smiles maniacally as his self is talking.
Sitting there trying to tell me how to turn my brain off to watch something. I invented that. Okay, that's mine.
Jesus.
I can believe that.
Don't do that because you're not supposed to do that with this kind of a show that's supposed to be connected to something. You know, like Star Trek Picard season 3, you have to take that as a separate thing and connect it to the original series. You know, the first 2 seasons of Picard are easily thrown away.
It's a
You don't-
fever
it-
dream, right?
Right. You know, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's much easier to do
Not
with
saying
Picard
you're
season
wrong,
3.
but
But
you're
don't tell me
But
don't
he
tell
ain't
me how to
saying
turn my
you're
brain off.
right. Okay,
Right?
he's not saying you're wrong, but he ain't saying you're right.
But
I'll tell you
this. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry, real quick. Even if it's, let's say, we turn everything off and we're like, this is a new timeline, a new Star Trek. Let's just pretend they rebooted it. Even from that perspective, though, I believe this season has been really bad. So not only let's completely turning it off, saying this is a completely new timeline, so I don't have to worry about canonical issues or anything natural, right? Go, why is Spock smiling from ear to ear constantly? Why is he simping for Chapel? Well, I can be like, okay, so maybe because he grew up with like a really aggro emotional sister, he has this, some of that gleaned off on him. But from the point of view from a science fiction show, there's so many problems within its own established altered timeline that don't add up. The things that we talked about with Chapel being in that ship all by herself, episode 4 with the rocks that make you forget. There's so many things that just don't add up. It feels like really stupid science fiction, almost like it's not science fiction, almost like it's science. It's said to be science fiction, but it's so dumbed down for the general audience that it's not even good science fiction now. Mm-mm. So even if you accept the altered timeline and you go, all right, fine, it's new Star Trek, I'll just deal.
Yep.
It's not good science fiction. Within its own writing, it doesn't work. The acting is fine. I feel like the actors are doing fine, but the writing doesn't make any sense.
Well,
There's things that are so contradictory.
Star Trek has gotten so bad, I just don't care anymore. I don't care to pick it apart. I don't care to apply logic to it anymore. I just assume it's going to be bad, and if we get something good, that's the outlier, in my opinion. Man, so I can watch season 2. Like obviously, I've only seen like a fourth of the season, but I can watch season 2 and be like, yeah, this is dumb. I don't care. We've gotten to that point.
10 episode seasons.
Also, Nut Bunny for 14 Czar. I don't know what that is. Does Mr. Kadish ever do ASMR?
South African random.
Yeah. Be sure to check out my OnlyFans.
ASMR.
Mm-hmm. Bulletproof
Michelle, since we're talking about things that you don't watch, and you're our special guest, is there Star Trek that you've watched? What is your familiarity with Star Trek?
Do you know the only Star Trek I've watched, and you Star Trek fans are going to be so disappointed at this, but was the J.J. Abrams movie. And I only saw the first 2. That's all I've seen.
But that makes sense.
And
that
does
make sense, though, because that, a lot of people, if you're not in the Trek universe, that would have been the introduction into Trek for a lot of people who had never been in that universe before. So,
I mean, me and Brian are sitting here arguing about things that are continuity issues from something that was made 50 years ago. So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, and I know everyone's gonna hate me right now, but I didn't mind the first Kelvin movie. Like, I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
2009. I thought it was actually sort of clever what they did with the with him like coming back in time. Like, they made it very clear that this was a completely alternate timeline that we were working with.
Yeah, and
I understood that. I actually thought it was that almost like the only way you can really completely redo the series without fucking over 60 years of content.
The first thing they did was explain to us that there's a wormhole that he's going through that started up a new alternate timeline.
Well, it doesn't hold up on rewatch, but you guys are right. At least it's because then you're sitting there going, why didn't Nero just go save his planet? But then right.
I mean, there might be flaws in the movie, but like as far as respecting Star Trek fans,
the tech nerds hate it too. But yeah.
As far as respecting Star Trek fans, though, like they're not going to go like, oh, let's try to recreate Star Trek from scratch instead of damaging.
You haven't talked to the real nerdy Star Trek fans about that movie, have you, Brian?
No, I have, and the thing
they
is,
hate that shit. Even worse than the next gen movies, man.
I get what you're saying, but consider this: they are not going. They should have just continued the franchise going forward. They shouldn't have tried to go back. I get that, but if you have to go back and like completely reboot everything, it'd be respectful not to damage the last 60 years of shows that we've watched and just start over with something completely outside that continuity. That way they have the creative freedom to do whatever they want, and we don't have to be disrespected by doing whatever they want. I actually thought that was a good move. Now going forward after that, they made a lot of mistakes, but I thought that was a good move.
The actors, I think helped too. I think that especially like Anton Yelkin, I thought was just really great in that role. And
Matt's going to change the topic on us here in a second, but I wanted to suggest to Michelle that you guys go back and you watch some Next Generation episodes.
What Star Trek do people all agree that they love?
DS9
and Next Generation.
The original series.
That's what I thought. Is it the original series?
No, nobody ever agrees with
and Voyager and Enterprise.
Honestly, the most consistent thing is probably TNG.
TNG is the most consistent.
I was going to say that's the one where most people will say that's their favorite, or it's the one that
you have to get through 2 seasons of really bad.
Yeah, you gotta get to the first two. The first two seasons are bad.
But yet, when you ask everybody their favorite episodes, it's always like Measure of a Man or something from the first 2 seasons. It's like, well, how can you say the first 2 seasons are bad then?
Because there's good episodes in those first 2 seasons.
Someone put up a poll.
There's good episodes in those first 2 seasons.
The other thing I always ask everybody is, who wants a show to get worse? Right, that's usually the case of what happens. Is every show gets worse after the first 2 seasons.
But those first 2 seasons, aside from a few standout episodes, were rough.
I don't mind them though.
Yeah, Voice of Light. I'm sorry. What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Force of Light.
Michelle.
Dr. Michelle.
Wow.
Michelle, you would actually probably love Voyager. I'm not just saying that because you're a woman and the captain is a woman. I'm not.
You're just on a roll, Brian. Keep going.
I'm not.
What's your name again? Oh yeah, you like this. Well, it's not because you're a woman, but
I introduced my sister to Star Trek, and Voyager is where she got really into it. And there's some stinker episodes, but the majority of that entire series for me is my favorite to rewatch. It's my favorite rewatch series. Is Voyager.
I really like the one where they turn into the salamanders and have little babies.
Yeah, that's called Threshold. That's the best episode of Star Trek ever made. You're gonna love it, Michelle. No, but in reality, I'll tell you why. It's easiest for non-Trekkies to digest because they are outside of the Federation, so you don't. There's less for you to have to learn back history. You can really get into it on its own. It sort of works on its own.
For me, that was DS9. But
all right, guys. So speaking of working on its own, we're going to talk about Disney for a bit and how they recently came out and said, "Hey, that Pixar movie that flopped? It didn't actually flop."
No.
And I want to get Odin's take on this in a bit, but real quick. So Disney released this press release saying that Elemental kept its fire burning at the box office, and they're bragging that it made almost 150 million domestically and 400 million at the global box office. And this means that movie everyone said flopped didn't actually flop because Disney's actually on a winning streak now. Odin, can you break these numbers down for us?
I mean, basically what they're doing is they are taking a bit of truth in that the film performed better than I think most people would have expected. Essentially, it had very strong legs. So just as a bit of a comparison, most movies tend to make about 50 to 70%, depending on the film, of their entire box office in their first couple of weeks. This movie made about 29%. So it's actually made a lot more after the fact. In fact, even in comparison to its opening weekend, it has one of the best opening weekend comparison to entire box office. Even at this point, it's 11% of the entire box office was its opening weekend itself. But the problem that they have, and then that they're not running with, again, doing well over time is fine, but they still have a massive spending problem because when your film costs $200+ million, and we all know that Disney is likely spending more than what is being told to us, and that was proven with Doctor Strange when there was an extra $100 million on top of it versus what they had originally told us. That means that this film, even with my charting, and I tend to use numbers that most people seem as more conservative and probably not the actual amount that would have been lost from a film. Right now, my charting has it still at 45 million of a loss. But that's, again, using a much more conservative estimate. So you're still looking at a film that at least probably going to be $50 to $100 million loss. So for them to say in any way that their film is making money is just not true. Yes, it did well in comparison to its opening weekend, like it had strong legs, but it had to make a lot of money to break even, and it's not there. And
I don't see it selling any merch or anything really either. No. And that's the thing is, Odin and I will disagree a lot of times on what we feel like. And the only thing in my case, I will say this, and I know you have to concede on this part, Odin. We're learning that they're spending a hell of a lot more on these movies than they're actually reporting. What they're reporting is the estimated budgets. What we're finding out is that especially every Marvel movie has cost anywhere from 100 to 150 more million than they've said. Even things going back as far as Guardians of the Galaxy cost a lot more than they said it did originally. So that's the thing. And that's why I always said, I always felt safer going 3 times, because the thing is, usually they have a huge advertising budget. The one thing I'll give them a caveat on the Elemental thing is they pulled the advertising for this, I think either just before the movie started showing or right after, and put it onto, what was it, Little Mermaid at that time or something like that. So the fact that they did that, it may have helped the movie at the end of the day, but I'm with Odin on this. There's no way this movie's in the black yet. Not in any way, shape, or form. They're trying to boost its image now for the video and Disney Plus drop is what I'm guessing.
So, Michelle, did you bother watching Elemental, and do you think Disney is lying?
I did not bother watching Elemental. That kind of time period, my nieces and nephews are too old for that now, or don't really care about that. So, no, I did not see Elemental, but I usually listen to Odin and Valiant and their expertise on box office. But it's not a surprise that they're trying to spin this into a win, because they've had really like hardly any, if any, wins this year. So, I mean, they need something to try to hang their hats on.
And that's a good point, actually, because if you look at all the films they've had this year, the most successful has been Guardians Volume 3. So, like, the third film in a franchise is like, that's your best movie? Okay. And so, honestly, you could argue the next best performer might be Elemental. Like, and so you're still looking at that being a loss. Like, that's just, it's not a good look for them at all.
Well, and Guardians 3 even underperformed in comparison to the first two.
Yeah, but in all fairness, the Marvels hasn't premiered yet, so
their wins coming.
That's just wait. You're right. That's going to be the big one. You're right.
That Barbie audience
what did they say about it? That it's like zany and so
they're trying. They're trying
to get the Barbie audience. It's
I know. It's like, you mean like every other Marvel movie we've had in the last 5 years? Sure, guys.
Yeah.
It was funny. I heard someone refer to it as Marvel Phase Bore.
Yes, that's been our common name for it. Yes,
I think that's pretty accurate. Brian,
then we call them this one Phase Dive. See, we're already in Phase Dive. See, Phase Bore ended. Remember, with Ant-Man. Don't forget that.
Well, and what do you guys think? Because it almost feels like with Fantastic Four, we keep getting these rumored and then denial of who they're casting. It's almost starting to feel like Marvel's brand so damaged that like stars don't want to be in it anymore. They're like, that's going to hurt my career.
It even came out this morning that the Blade movie is like, they don't even know if it's actually going to happen now, because Mahershala Ali, like, you know, he's in his 50s. He's getting older. It's taken like they announced this 4 years ago, didn't they?
Yeah,
like
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And like they don't have a script yet. Like directors keep quitting. Like it's very bizarre. Brian,
I heard that there's this guy named Wesley Snipes that wants to come back and play the role.
Well, that's what's funny is they had him on board, because I had initially, when they announced that at I think it was San Diego Comic-Con or one of those things that year, D23, I can't remember what it was. It was like literally days before they announced Mahershala Ali was going to be playing Blade. I was talking to this guy who would have been one of the writers on the movie had they gotten him involved,
Snipes.
But they were in the background arguing about things, and Snipes walked. So, and that's where everybody said, "Oh, there's rumors that he's in this and that and the other," and with Doctor Strange. And I called bullshit. I said, last I heard, he won't come anywhere near a Marvel movie unless they let him be Blade, and that was not what they were going to do. They wanted him to play the Whistler role, and he actually wanted to do Blade, passing the baton on to Blade's daughter, which is what they were going to do anyway. But for some reason, they were just against this idea of him playing Blade, and I don't understand why. Because you just pointed it out. It's not like Mahershala Ali's that much younger than him.
Yeah, what's the age difference?
Like, I think a few years, like 5 or 6 years, I think is the only... Because Wesley's not that old. I mean, he's old, but he's not that old.
Well, then why would they not just give it to Snipes?
I don't understand. Probably because he wanted too much or something. Who knows?
I also think Snipes, number one, he's hard to work with. Number two, he's hard to get bonded because of his...
that too,
his criminal past. Didn't like to pay taxes. Brian, one of the interesting things about this seems to be that all of the money is coming from the foreign box office for Elemental. And Disney's been, kind of kowtowing to China and all these other countries to try to, get these movies to make money. And I found it interesting that the most money that it made overseas was from South Korea. What's your take on Disney movies just kind of courting foreign box office over domestic box office in general?
I feel like a lot of companies are doing that now because, and I'm not sure why, but maybe it's because I think Americans, I'm assuming domestically, we just have a higher standard now. And I'm not talking shit on any other country, but like locally, I'm sure that their local content might not be up to the same standards of like our higher budget Hollywood content here. So they know they can get more money out of those markets. Meanwhile, I didn't even see Elemental. My kids, I have two 11-year-old daughters, and they had no interest in it whatsoever. And they knew about it, they just didn't care. That was surprising to me. And that's not just that movie. There's been a few Disney movies that came out that they were aware of, but they didn't really care. They're telling me about Blue Beetle, but they didn't even flinch at Barbie or The Little Mermaid. They had no interest in it. So they're not really marketing it correctly to us, and it might be because we're so tainted by their work that they know there's more money in the foreign market. I'm assuming. I don't really know the answer to that, to be honest.
Vader, Pixar's been on a big losing streak lately. Like all their recent releases have really underperformed. Why do you think they're trying to push Elemental as like the one that actually succeeded?
I don't know. I haven't watched a Pixar movie in the theater since Up. And as far as this movie goes, I think maybe they're trying to push it because of its messaging. The fire's got to get along with the waters and yada yada yada. But it's just veiled social justice stuff, and that's fine. It is what it is. I have no interest in these movies anymore. They're not made for me. I'm trying to figure out this article. Did the article imply that this movie is still in theaters? Is that how I read that?
I think it still is, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Because
Before
we went live, I went online and I looked at the 3 big theaters here locally in Vegas that I go to, and they're all 12 to 16 screen megaplexes, right? It's not playing in any of those theaters. So I don't know where these people are going to watch this.
690 screens right now. So it's basically done, and they've since moved it to Disney Plus. And so like the fact that it was on this massive run, it's got not enough to anywhere get close to making up its money.
So yeah, I don't know how any of their movies are staying afloat right now, because nobody I know, unless we have to talk about it on our silly little YouTube channels, people aren't going to watch these movies that I know about. I work with a lot of normies, and they're not going to watch these movies, and they go to movies, and it's funny. They're all, what terrible movie are you going to go watch this week, Matt? And then I'm like, well, it's just, I don't know. It just seems strange that an article will come out and it just seems like a puff piece to me. It doesn't seem like they're being.
I'll give them this much credit. Like the movie that it did flop on its initial dropping, and then it has been consistently making like, what is it, like $1 million every day or so, something like that for a while there. It did okay, and it's like it just had these little legs that it kept walking on. And what they're trying to do is present it as like this year's Encanto is what they're trying to do. Because Encanto was the movie they screwed up on, and in similar fashion, they didn't advertise it correctly. After the fact, people found it. Maybe Elemental has that element to it. I could be wrong, but just nothing in the advertising really sold me on it. Look, I don't have little kids anymore, though, so I don't have a gauge to go by as far as what's out there. It may be that the movie is not as bad as what people thought. I haven't really heard about too much controversy with it either. I mean, I remember somebody mentioning something about something same-sex, something or other, but
there's a non-binary
or something like that.
In there, yeah. But,
so it's getting to the point where it's like, if that's all it is, that's not so bad. But does that also mean they've conditioned us now, Odin? I mean, like,
it's like when that is like, oh yeah, it's not as bad as it could be.
I feel like this article. I feel like this article is trying to like position this movie as something like the Energizer Bunny movie that keeps on going,
Vader,
like the Sound of Freedom is doing.
Vader, this isn't an article. This is a press release from Disney.
Okay, well, whatever. It's words on a paper that I read. It's an article. So
I'm just saying, anything from Disney.
Well, yeah, what's the difference? You don't think the articles that are being put out on Deadline aren't in some way coming from
90%
Disney?
of them are all
Yeah.
paid puff
Yeah.
piece bullshit,
They're all
man. No,
paid.
they are. We've learned that pretty quickly. But
God, I hate that look on your
poor
face
summer
right now.
child here, Matt. We'll let him just
Smug.
continue to live in that world.
Yeah,
Vader's just like,
I love you, Matt.
he likes to make me seem stupid. I'm not.
This
as
is for
dumb as
the
I look,
Exorcist
okay?
thing, just so you know.
All right, guys, real quick, we got a super chat from Dustin Cole for $2. I'm with Brian. Voyager is my go-to.
That's cool.
So definitely worth checking out. Just want to remind everyone that we're still trying to hit 5 new members for our YouTube membership. When we watch Valiant Renegade or WDW Pros stream, they get like 1 billion new signups every stream. We just want 5. We just want 5
5.
new people.
Just 5.
Just 5.
To be fair,
Yeah.
the people didn't know that because your comment said 5 new subs, not 5 new members. So that could
No.
just be people subscribing to your. I'm just saying.
Before we move on from the Elemental thing, I'm curious because I haven't even paid attention. I usually know when these movies are dropping on digital and video. Could it be that Elemental is dropping on digital this next week? Do you know anything about that, Odin? Because
I
didn't
mean-
Bob Iger say something about they were going to try and get back to a window of time before a movie actually goes on Disney Plus? It sounded like they were going to try to keep that video on demand and home video window in mind now going into the future, something to that effect. I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but
Yeah, it could be.
I wouldn't be
think.
surprised.
Yeah, because I am pretty sure. Let me go ahead and double check. I want to say that I recently saw that it was now on Disney Plus, but I can double check.
Okay, if that's the case, then that's why they're doing it. Exactly, one or the other, because it's not available yet on Vudu. I just looked, but I'm like, okay. Usually movies don't drop till Tuesday. It's probably getting on that 45-day window. It'll probably drop this Tuesday, so this is basically a paid advertisement, like you said.
Yeah.
Well,
I just
guys-
watched.
guys.
go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, Brian, but
It's not
Since
yet
we're-
available on Disney Plus.
since we're speaking of Disney, let's talk about Disney's AI task force that they have mobilized.
He's
This is a very hot topic right now in the Hollywood circles because of like the strikes and stuff. But basically, before the strikes happened, Disney created an AI task force to explore how they could utilize AI across all their businesses to cut costs. And I found this kind of interesting because it's not only about making movies and stuff like that, but it's also about their parks, like how they want to create robots to replace the people in costume who walk around and like interact with other human beings. But it gets really down into the nitty gritty stuff about like capturing people's faces and recreating them and stuff like that, and how like they tried to incorporate AI in that failed Star Wars hotel of theirs and all this interesting stuff. But a big contention here in Hollywood is like, hey, like AI is going to replace, everyone's job. So I wanted to get the panel's take on this. Tom Connors, what do you think of Disney's AI task forces?
No, like this AI thing is insane. Like, I mean, look, it can be used as a useful tool, but these studios are. I'm assuming you're talking about like this idea that because they've been hiring these guys that are costing almost like $1 billion a year to run their AI program systems or whatever. Is that what you're discussing?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, when they're in the midst of a strike and negotiating with writers and actors, and AI is one of the biggest sticking points of both, I think it's a bad move publicly. But at the same time, we have to understand they got to stay on top of this stuff for business. And I mean, honestly, I can't believe how it's alarming to me how it feels like the studios are not panicking over AI like they did over the VCR back in the day. Because I would think they would be panicking the same way. Because really, once AI gets to that point, we can sit there and tell it, look, I want to watch Spider-Man 3, but I want Tom Holland in it instead of Tobey Maguire. And it can do that for you. Right? So, like, I mean, these studios are looking at, like, I can't believe they're not getting to this point where they should be worrying about getting regulations and stuff done for this. Because sooner or later, people are going to be able to manipulate movies and stuff. And when is the argument going to be made? Is it a wholly new original product now that this person has come in and came up with these ideas to alter it? Does that cover this whole thing? To me is like crazy because, again, at the end of the day, all AI does is feed from something that already exists. Calling it AI is almost like an oxymoron of sorts, or whatever you want to call it. It's an anachronism, or what? Not, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's not real. It's actually simulated intelligence because it's not making anything new. It's pulling from existing elements. So
It's true.
It's a very muddy ground, and I can't believe they're not more worried about the regulations on it and how it's going to affect the future business going forward than they are this whole thing about how it's going to help them right now save a few bucks on some extras in the background.
Well,
Because that to me is a bigger deal in the end of the day. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, just want to give a shout out to Jillian N, who gifted 5 subs, helping us
nice.
Meet our membership goal for the stream. Jillian, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And be sure, those of you who got the gifted subs, check out our members area. We have a playlist on our Salty Nerd YouTube homepage that has all those previous member videos for you. So we put out a new one every Monday. Michelle, some of the AI stuff could really be disruptive to the industry. Like, Tom talked about replacing actors in movies, but it could even be something like, hey, instead of hiring people to dub a movie, they can just tell the AI, hey, make everyone's dialogue Spanish or, French or whatever. But in this article, they even point out, hey, we're going to be using AI to control robots in our theme parks to walk around and interact with other people. What's
sure that's going to end real well, guys.
Yeah,
what's your take? Seen this movie already?
What's your take on how
Five Nights at
disruptive
Freddy's?
this
Anyone?
I was thinking more Terminator, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it at all, quite frankly. I think this could even be a bigger conversation. I think the difference of true capitalism and corporatism, because with these big corporations, they have the money to replace people and replace jobs with AI as this continues to grow. And I think that's a worthy conversation because eventually, I mean, is anyone going to have a job? Or are we just, is everything going to be robots? It gets to that point. And it also just loses. I don't know about you. Some days I literally hate the fact that I go into a grocery store and I have to do it myself. I don't want to do everything myself.
Yeah.
And it's just that's what everything's going to. So if you make people are already not happy with the changes the parks have done with how everything's on your phone and stuff, and you can't just pay for anything anymore. So I think if they further make it more computer generated and remove the human element, I think you're going to see numbers go down because I just don't think people want that.
I gotta say, you got a point on the grocery store thing.
Ugh.
First off, I used to have a problem with the self-checkout. Then I realized that every time I'm forced to work for them for free, I'm just gonna not ring up a couple things as it comes through. Yeah. And you know what? You're paying for my time right now. Sorry, guys, the ketchup was free. But what makes it worse is when you go to Ralph's and they have a listed price where it's membership price and value price, whatever, and there's a QR code, and in your mind you're like, oh, well, I have a membership, so this is the price. But no, you gotta scan the fucking thing with your phone first and do all this complicated QR code nonsense. It's the worst. Don't do that. Don't fool people with the QR code. Why are we even doing the QR codes? It's so stupid.
So I sound like an old man, and I don't know. I might be the oldest one on the panel. I don't know how old Tom is, but
103.
Yeah, but when
most days
when I was a kid, everybody had that job. They, in my small town, you got a job pumping gas, you got a job working for the local farmer, changing irrigation pipe or hauling hay or something when you're 15 years old, or you got a job working at the grocery store, being a box boy and a bagger, and that was back in the day. That was right at the end of the days when you'd bag the groceries and put them in the cart. Take the cart with the lady out to her car, put the bags in the car, and you might get 50 cents or something for a tip. But that
was one of my first jobs. Yeah.
Right. And people were losing the ability to get young people into a workforce to teach them how to work, because all of a sudden now people want $20 to work a freaking In-N-Out. It's insane.
Yeah. They think they can come out of school and be in a corporate. Yeah.
McDonald's is paying $20 an hour.
Yeah. These aren't career jobs. These are burger flipping jobs to teach you some work ethic.
These are stepstone. You're not supposed to be there when you're 50. Okay?
Right. But on the other thing, as far as the AI is concerned, I'm concerned about people that are doing my job. I have a job, I work in surveillance in the casino industry. I monitor gaming, I monitor gambling, and I catch card counters and cheaters on all these games. And I monitor all the cash in, cash out, the cages, the cashiers, the bars. I'm not going to have a job fairly soon, because 5 years ago I went to a conference when I was in management at another casino, and I saw the technology that they were using this AI stuff for. And this was 5 years ago, AI. Okay. And these machines were able to tell you every card, every chip that was on the table, everybody's totals that they had. You could go back 30 hands ago, and the machine could tell you what your hand was and how much you had bet. You could push a button and you could get a report out for the entire day of exactly to the penny how much that certain table is up or down or whatever. These are things that I do that take me sometimes hours, and the ability is out there to do it with the push of a button. But it's just not cost effective right now for these casinos.
Right.
It's cheaper for them to hire me to do this by the hour than for them to get this expensive
But it's going to get
AI
to that
computer
point.
equipment. But it's soon,
Yes.
probably within the next 10 years, that's not going to be the case. And I'm going to be SOL. There's going to be people in the surveillance rooms that I work in and in these places that they're going to have IT degrees, and they're going to be required because, the gaming commission is going to say that there has to be a certain number of humans around or something like that. But
and this is
it's the 10-person room in the business that I work with is going to be down to 2 or 3, and it's just it sucks. And it's just and that's happening all across the country, all across the world. All of our jobs are going to be reduced to low-paying IT work.
What did we find out over COVID? They found out they can
Right.
make us work from home, which is even worse. And again, everything you're explaining, Vader, which is weird, is like I know most people overlooked the RoboCop remake, but I revisited it. And it's like, okay, I see now what the two difference between the original RoboCop and the remake is. The remake is talking about everything you just said, Vader. The original movie is a totally different movie, and that's why I looked at it with brand new eyes when I watched it, and I say people should revisit it, because the new RoboCop is more about is the machine more efficient, or does it matter at the end of the day? Because that's the question they keep asking themselves, is just because Murphy would hesitate for that extra half a second, they would say, well, the AI is better. But then they're like, well, what if it's a kid? Or what if it's something that the AI can't really delineate difference of? And that's what you're saying. It's just like you said, eventually they're going to get down to 2-3 humans, but they still want that human element. But the true fact is they want that human element out. Why? Because the human element is still a human element. If it's all AI, then the AI can't steal. See, that's the thing.
Right, that's it.
And there's other things to it too. But I'm saying on a bigger scale, like that's where I think we're not paying attention to a lot of this stuff. And you're 100% right.
Yeah, in the casino business, and these haven't really caught on a whole lot yet. But I went home to Oregon a couple of years ago to the casino I used to work in up there, and they don't have any cocktail waitresses on the floor anymore, because a person needs to just go up to this dispenser and push a button, and then they get their drink, because it's easier for them to do that than to hire 5 girls in short dress to go out there and get schlep people's drinks around.
That is a shame. Honestly,
it's wild. It's how much money are they saving there? And that was years ago, a few years ago.
So let me throw this to Odin, because basically Disney's come under a lot of fire specifically for the union strikes in terms of like how they're using new technology to basically not only replace actors and writers and stuff like that, but also take advantage of them, like getting their likeness rights for background extras and stuff like that. So do you think that this AI council that they've essentially created is more proof that Disney's the enemy?
I mean, well, obviously Disney be the enemy. And as soon as you said an AI council, I immediately was like, oh man, this just starting to sound like Dark Empire stuff here with the Council of AI Technology.
Yes.
It's like, oh boy, this is about to get really dark. But also it made me ask the question. You brought up the strike. It also made me wonder. I'm wondering if this is one of the many reasons why the studios are dragging their feet as much as they are with the writer strike and the actor strike, not necessarily because they're trying to, pressure the actors or writers to take less. But could it also possibly be that they're trying to figure out, okay, before we make any long-term commitments, we need to figure out, where is AI going to be? It's like, because if we're going to see in 10 years, 5-10 years, that AI is going to be at the point where we don't really need as many writers as we once did, or we don't really need as many actors for background or for, voice work or whatever it might be. Again, that could be ultimately something that they're considering. And for someone, talking about jobs, I know for me, AI is definitely something that at some point it's going to be something that will take a job like mine, because as a teacher, that is something that people are already able to teach themselves with YouTube videos and with, other people teaching in this online space. You add AI, which will be able to calculate where you are, like what level you're at in any given subject, and then actually provide you lessons specifically for you when it gets access to like textbooks and just all this other stuff. If it doesn't already have access to it, then game over for that. And I understand in certain respects that could be a good thing for those that maybe aren't a big fan of school. And so you may not need, for instance, higher education as much, whereas lower education, you obviously need the, childcare providers, things like that. But it is interesting to see where AI is pushing all of these things, especially in the entertainment industry, because it is eventually going to get to the point where, as you said, you'll be able to push a button and say, I want to see this movie with this maybe slight change or variation. Or, hey, it could even get so good that it's, hey, I want to get an Indiana Jones 3 that is not crap. And you could say, hey, here's the basic plot elements I want to see.
Indiana Jones 3 wasn't crap, dude.
Sorry, Indiana Jones 4. My bad.
That's what I was going to say. I knew
Bro.
what you meant.
My
I'm
bad.
glad you corrected
My
him.
bad. I misspoke.
The hair on
Thank you
the hair on my neck
thank
just
you.
stood up.
I
I was like,
Thank you
I
for correcting
almost
me.
booted him from the.
But while Odin's saying this, bring this up on screen. He can continue, and you can see exactly what he's talking about here. Like somebody just posted this on
I saw
Twitter.
that.
This is how scary it's getting. Like, look at this.
That's wild.
oh my god, that's badass.
I want to play as Freddie Mercury versus
Oh
Bowie.
yeah, bro.
Oh my God, Steve Irwin without a hand?
Oh, this is. Wait, go back to Steve Irwin real quick. Oh my god, that was awesome,
Steve
bro.
Jobs.
What is this? I want to play
awesome.
this so badly.
Somebody just made this. This is like Mortal Kombat through AI with just random celebrities.
That's rad, bro.
Yeah.
Hendrix. Oh, cool.
Steve Jobs.
Can I just point out that Tom is pointing out how things are going to get replaced by AI, and Brian's going there. Oh my god, I want to play that game.
Yes.
That is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's cool, bro.
That's
I'm
so
sorry.
Rad.
You guys turned off before Mr. Rogers showed up in a kimono. I mean, come on.
Bro, that is rad. I'm sorry. That's the coolest thing I've seen in a long
Sly
time.
dressed like a Street Fighter character.
I'm sorry though, but
Hunter
to
Biden on a PC.
Odin's point, if I could hit a button and say make a good version of The Last Jedi, I probably would.
Yeah, you probably could. I bet you ChatGPT can write a better script than
Well, because
dipshit
AI
did.
could actually seeing the big three one last time, and it might get to the point where it looks so realistic that you might be able to have that uncanny valley still there, so you can still know it's not true. But hey, it's like, hey, at least it's better than what we got with the lack of that.
And speaking of that, Nick 6 for 2 months, a member. If you can't write better than a robot, you should be replaced.
Well, and that
That's-
goes to what I was saying before.
that's a
Until
good
they actually
point.
create actual AI, all the writing part is doing is just pulling from existing things, right? Like, but what Odin is saying is that's where I think the studios need to start to worry, because sooner or later somebody through AI is going to just end up, because we've already seen like the Wes Anderson version of Star Wars and stuff like that. Sooner or later, somebody's going to create a new Force Awakens and fix all those problems, and you're going to have like the Phantom edit all over again times 12. And people are going to
beyond that-
react to that movie the same way you guys were just reacting to that trailer I just showed.
Yeah, beyond that, Tom, it's one of those situations where the technology is going to become so advanced that someone sitting alone in their home office could make a AAA $100 million movie
That's what I
just
mean.
from their computer and actually release it to compete with these studios. Real quick, Rec Thoughts for $2 says AI will make depopulation easier. Probably.
Great. Good.
All right, guys. So speaking of all the strikes and stuff like that, this news article I found was kind of interesting. Basically, Marvel's visual effects workers are seeking to unionize so that they can strike as well. There's a great article here on Vulture that talks about how Marvel has abused their effects houses so terribly that the workers want to unionize in order to protect themselves from the predatory practices of studios like Disney and Marvel and all that stuff. Michelle, do you think it's right for visual effects artists to unionize so that they can't be abused by studios?
I mean, I'm not like a big union person, so I don't know if I'm the right one to ask on that. It does sound like, though, at Disney in particular, that the VFX people have been overworked, and that one woman, what's her name, Tom, who left?
Victoria Alonso.
Victoria Alonso. Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, she made their life pretty miserable. So, I mean, it does seem that they probably want to negotiate at least better working hours or pay or something for themselves, because it does seem that Disney's really, really worked those people hard.
Well, you know, Brian, it's not just Disney who's been working these people hard, but you know, the special effects for the Flash, you know, Warner Brothers. And I think one of the criticisms about this is that, hey, you know, you suck at special effects because the special effects we've been getting haven't been very good. So what's your take on visual effects workers unionizing? Because they've notoriously never unionized before.
Yeah, I think that might also be a step toward putting it to the studios a little harder, because what they're saying right now is if the strikes go on longer, then the content you're going to see slated for the next couple quarters or whatever they're called are going to be non-scripted content like reality shows and animation. So one way to sort of cuck the studios into getting them to come to the table is unionizing the animation studios or workers, so that they can't just rely on animation as one of their tent poles in order to get through the strikes.
You know, Odin, I find it interesting the timing of this, because it almost looks like that they're getting ready to resolve the writers and actors strikes. But if the visual effects artists suddenly go on strike after those get resolved, you still can't make most stuff coming out of Hollywood, because even TV shows have something like 4,000 visual effects shots in them. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm like mixed on this, because similar to Michelle, I am also not very pro-union, because unions have just become political organizations versus what they used to be for, which was for workers' rights. In this instance, the reason why I'm torn is because they don't have one currently, and they're clearly getting abused. They're clearly getting, used in such a way that they don't really have rights in the way that you would typically think in that type of market you would have. And so it almost reminds me a little bit. It's kind of crazy. It's like, wait, I can't believe, honestly, that in today's world, we're seeing something this similar to where the birth of unions like ultimately came from, which was, you know, the workers now not really being treated fairly. But then at the same time, I do still have that more anti-union union bias, because I know what they ultimately become. And also, we live in a world where we can now do so many other things and work at so many different locations. You know, it's like, okay, well, if they're not going to give you the things that you think you are worth in your contract, then maybe try going elsewhere. You know, like, again, that's kind of like the market mentality, I guess. But it is interesting. And I think that with this happening, in addition to all this other stuff happening, Disney, more so than any other studio, is just, it's in a lot of financial trouble, I would say.
Well, Tom, you know, Marvel's gotten a reputation for being a bully in the visual effects field, and a lot of like visual effects production houses hate working with them. How do you think this is going to affect their production pipeline, and how much of that was actually Victoria Alonso now that she's been fired?
Well, and I think we've brought this up before when we've talked about Victoria. She's just one of many problems, right? I mean, she was, you know, kind of made an example of by being fired, but at the end of the day, there's still a bunch of other people just like her there and everywhere else. I mean, a movie like Flash is a good example of how there's just people just like that over at DC as well, and every other place. And that's kind of the common thing. And that's kind of what this whole point of them wanting to unionize is about, is how, you know, the thing I see whenever I see somebody say something on Twitter, like, you know, it's crazy that back in 1993, they made Jurassic Park and that looks better than any of the new movies do today. And it's like, well, here's one of the reasons why, and that is because Jurassic Park had 53 CGI effects shots in it. The last Jurassic film had over 2,000 some effects shots in it. The Flash movie that just came out, the director said that every single shot in that movie has CGI in it in some way, shape, or form. So like it's like when you have that much of a movie being manipulated in some way or having to be worked on in some way by an animator or somebody in the CGI department, that's what these guys are saying is they're already working 18-hour days, 6 days a week. Like the guy from WandaVision said, until they get episode 10 done, they're not getting any days off for the next few months because they said, we got to get episode 10 done by this date. And if we don't, then we're screwed. And then that's why these movies and shows look all rushed and look like crap. And then you also have people on the other end on the studio side, like Victoria Alonso, who are like treating it like it's live action footage from what I've heard. And that's specifically what I've heard it being called. Because they'll be like, well, can't you have them do this instead? Or can't you have them flip around this way instead of the other way? And it's like, do you guys not realize we just spent weeks animating this to have to go back and do that again is going to take a lot of work. It's not like a cut and paste, copy and delete thing like a lot of people think it is on a document, because there's several levels to animation. And that's one of the reasons why The Flash looks like crap, I heard, is when they knew they were just going to release it as is, they literally stopped the animators from continuing to finish the animation. They're like, nah, it's good enough. We're not going to finish it. Like, so there's like a couple layers of that animation missing because they just never finished it. And that's kind of what some of these, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. And that's like She-Hulk and some of these other shows is because they changed their mind at the last minute on something. And they're doing it in ways that are crazy, because when you used to make movies like this, you would pre-viz out all your big special effects sequences because you didn't have the time or money to go back and fix that again. You had to get that right the first time, right? You couldn't keep doing that. And when these movies are wall to wall to wall special effects, I mean, it's just insane. I watched The Incredible Hulk like a week and a half ago, and I'm sitting here going, God, it's crazy. We don't even see the Hulk till 30 minutes into the movie. We only see him about 3 or 4 times at most in the movie. And the first time they show him, they do everything they can not to have to, use CGI. It's all practical, and he's in the dark, and you don't actually see him. You see things happening. But like, why do they forget how to make a movie like that? It's like now everything is just bombardment. Well, and of course that's how I'm guarantee you that's how these animators feel too, is that they're just getting bombarded with nothing but work. And of course it's all suffering. I mean, I'm with you guys. I'm not a fan of unions, but I'm kind of surprised they haven't yet, because of the horror stories that I've heard from people myself personally that I've talked to that work in this industry, and the horror stories that we're hearing just from the people that are, bringing up this whole idea right now. I'm surprised they weren't already included in like the animation unions. I never knew they weren't. So like, do they deserve better? Absolutely. I don't know if a union's an answer necessarily, but because that's the thing with Hollywood and the unions and the guilds. It's like, to me, it takes capitalism out of the equation in a weird way. It makes it's almost like woke before woke. It was almost like it was so you can make sure that all these people who are not as good of actors get paid just as much as some of these people who do deserve it.
It removes the merit-based.
Exactly. And it always felt kind of weird to me. And but anyway, I'm sure other people have some feelings.
Unions have pros and cons, but they need to be protected, but they can't be so protected that they lose the merit-based rewards of doing a good job.
They want to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, like what's that thing that teachers get, Odin? Tenure, where they can basically be as crappy of a teacher as they want and not get fired.
Yeah, within public schools with the unions there, it's insane what they are able to get when
teacher forums, Odin. None of those teachers, like, you can be a really bad teacher and not get fired, but instead you have to go to like a warehouse somewhere and read for 8 hours a day, and that's your job.
Well, there's a green room apparently in some of these schools too, where like, let's say you're being investigated for something, like they will actually just keep you in the school, but you just won't be in the classroom, and you're getting paid. And it's ridiculous.
Wild nonsense.
Just bring your iPad and play puzzle games all day.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad not to be in the public school system.
Well, Matt Vader. So a lot of the CGI that we've been seeing from big studios like this hasn't been very good, mostly because, as Tom explained, it seems to be so rushed. But like they just came out and said that Loki season 2 costs like $150 million basically, and it could be because every single episode has so much CGI in it that needs to be animated and created and stuff like that. Do you think that going forward, movies are just going to get more expensive under VFX union rules?
Well, I think that's kind of where they're going, right? I mean, if they end up having to pay these people more money, it's going to add more money to the overall budget of the film. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm kind of befuddled as to why these people aren't already unionized. I mean, literally everybody in the entertainment industry and Hollywood and stuff, aren't they almost all union? I mean, I think even the people who bring food to the sets are unionized in some way or another. So it just seems very strange that this little subsection of the industry is not. And I guess I can understand why they think they need to be. I mean, especially if they're being abused and taken advantage of. I mean, that would completely suck. So I wouldn't want to have to work 80 hours a week and get paid for 40 or whatever. You know, I don't know how it works, man. I'm a complete pleb when it comes to this kind of stuff. So probably the wrong guy to talk to, but it makes sense that it would add more money to the overall budget of this stuff. But I at the same time, I understand them wanting to get paid for their craft, and it makes sense.
Well, if it does happen, I think we're going to see a real lack of last minute changes for these movies, because it seems like most of Marvel's thing was they were changing stuff up to the minute of release, and like it was like a lot of crunch time stuff.
I think they need to get back to more practical filmmaking. I'm tired of seeing these movies that are all CGI. You know,
well,
what
animated? Spider-Man Across Spider-Verse, those guys complained that they were rushed so bad that they couldn't even go home to take showers and stuff like that.
I mean, there's they can make these movies with practical effects and use the CGI properly. You know, I mean, that was one of the reasons that I did actually like the Force Awakens a little bit, is because JJ bothered to put, you know, practical effects and real robots and people in the garbage cans and in the rubber suits and stuff, you know. So I want more of that and less of this CGI stuff everywhere. I mean, do I want to see Grand Moff Tarkin come back from the dead and have a role? I kind of thought I did. I thought it was kind of neat. But at the same time, I'm going, man, Peter Cushing died a long time ago. That was really weird that he's got a role in Rogue One. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's I'm just still kind of out there on my thoughts on this subject. I'm not sure where I'm going to land. So,
all right, guys. So we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. We're going to wrap things up. Tom Connors, what's going on over at Midnight's Edge? Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Well, it's kind of funny because usually I'm the one who has to leave early on Saturdays, but I actually had extra time today since my other obligation got canceled. So we're actually done before 2, which is weird. You can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, and wherever else I turn up.
All right. And Odin, any final thoughts? And do you want to give your shelf the last word?
Oh, well, yeah, I sure hope not, because I that would mean it would fall, and I don't want it to fall. So, but as far as final words, I will say, kind of going off of that, I think a great example of using both old tech, new tech would be the addition of Swamp Thing they did, right? Where they had the practical suit was the vast majority of it, but then they had CG elements. It's like, hey, that is how you can do this, and you could probably save some money doing it, especially with the whole visual effects stuff. But you can find me over at OMB Reviews. Have a live stream every Saturday and Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. and talking box office. And Barbenheimer back on top this weekend, so we'll be talking about that, and also where the last voyage of the Demeter likely will end up. So thank you as always for having me.
Barbenheimer still going strong. And the lovely and talented Michelle from Force of Light. She's got a fantastic channel going on over there with her sister Natalie. Definitely recommend everyone go check that out. Michelle, do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yes, well, thank you guys for letting me come on today. Yes, you can find us at Force of Light Entertainment on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And I was telling them backstage, we recently we watched this morning. We do a lot of reactions, Wayne's World, so that's going to be coming, and then our Hot Shots 2, which of course I've not seen Rambo, but that's coming out next week. So definitely check those out.
And a quick reminder, everyone's channels are linked in the description of this video if you guys want to go check them out. Brian from the Popcast.
Hey,
how are you managing Shane's anger issues?
Oh, Shane is his Star Trek effectively just dying on us is it's a 1-2 punch. We get demonetized, Star Trek becomes completely absurd, and it caused him to do something really crazy. He went and watched Barbie about 5 times.
Oh no.
And he said, There's something to be said about this. Speaking of Barbie Hammer, there's something to be said about Barbie. And he came up with the idea that Barbie is a dangerous film. And I am in the process of editing the video in which he writes a 40-minute script on the topic. I'm not. Don't worry, it's not going to be 40 minutes. I'm gonna cut out whatever's excessive. But the video we have coming out either tomorrow or the next day. I'm hoping on tomorrow. I gotta finish it after this. Is basically it's gonna be called Barbie: A Dangerous Film, and he has some really good points. I think you guys are gonna like it.
Cool.
Oh, fantastic. Matt Vader 74. What do we got going on the Salty Nerd channel?
Oh, we got stuff going on. So we're going through the new season of Warrior. Our episode 9 review dropped Thursday. And guys, if you're not watching Warrior, you really need to watch it because it's a really change of pace show on TV right now because it's actually entertaining and it's actually good.
Okay, what is this Warrior on? I keep seeing people.
It's on Max. HBO Max. Yeah. We released our latest August Bites review of The Shallows yesterday. Go check that out if you like shark movies. And coming up later this week, we have the finale, season 3 finale of Warrior coming out. And we're going to be dropping the video where we talked about the Meg 1 and the Meg 2, The Trench. So we all went and watched that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And also our spaces in our live stream coming up on Tuesday with Saltcast IRL with the crew in the studio. So
yes, and we got Christian Toto from Hollywood in Toto joining us on Tuesday. So and Alex will not be there, so I'll be running the show on that one. But it should be a good time. Anyway, just want to give a big thanks to everyone who gave us super chats: Joker's Voice, Scotty Dub, Fluffy Panda, Gavin Blackburn, Bob Dorsey, Nut Bunny, Dustin Cole, and Rec Thoughts. And big thanks to Jillian N for helping us meet our membership goal for the stream. I really appreciate that. But tune in next Saturday for yet another Salty Saturday. Really appreciate you all being here, and we will see you next week.